Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sustainability Storytelling. My name is Michelle, and I use she or they pronouns. And I, along with Emma and Amanda, will be facilitating this session. Thanks all for joining us wherever you're coming from. We'll do a quick introduction of Reimagine 17, which is our organization, and then we'll pass it on to you all to do a little introduction, and then we'll dive into the rest of our discussion questions. So as mentioned, my name is Rochelle. I'm a programming coordinator here at Reimagine 17, and Reimagine 17 is a national youth-led, nonpartisan organization that aims to build capacity for SDG-inspired and informed advocacy on post-secondary campuses across so-called Canada. So our focus is really on the intersection of youth, specifically students, and the SDGs. So we are a longstanding partner of SDSN, and we're really happy to be here to have this side event and to hold space for everyone to sort of talk about the work that you're doing in sustainability, or if you're not working directly in sustainability, your passion for sustainability, and just to hold an open conversation about our hopes, our work, our fears, and sort of our plans and aspirations for what it means to be working or interested in the sustainability space in Canada. So that's a little bit of an introduction of us at Reimagine 17. I'll talk a little bit more about the event and how it's going to roll out, but I'll pass it on to Emma to introduce herself.
Thank you, Michelle. And hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be doing this event and to be a part of the Together conference. My name is Emma Leckie, and I am the Executive Officer of Reimagine 17. And I'm really excited to come together to talk about our shared experiences with working on SDG-related issues and what that means for us on a professional level and also on a personal level, and just what it means to be doing this work in the world that we live in today. And so I'm really excited to hear what everyone else's perspective is, and hopefully have a really supportive and interesting conversation. So once again, thank you all so much for being here.
Amazing. And so Amanda's also here from our team. She'll be in the chat. And if you need any sort of technical support, feel free to send a message to Emma, Amanda, or Alyssa, who is our TK production support today. And seeing as we have quite a small group, we want, sort of bearing the constraints of this Zoom webinar format, we'll try our best to be able to have an open conversation, because I don't want this to be us talking at you. I want everyone to be able to meet each other, to share perspectives. So depending on how the numbers look in a few minutes, we'll try to promote everyone to a panelist so that you can turn on your camera if you're comfortable and unmute if you'd like to voice something verbally. But of course, you don't have to. We'll just open that invitation up to everyone in a few minutes. But sort of before then, I will do a quick rundown of how this event is going to go. We only have a short time together, only until 4:45 p.m. EST, but we're going to go through a quick introduction of everyone. Just love to know, where you're calling in from, what brought you to this event, and then we have a couple of discussion questions, which I have a Mentimeter for, but if it seems like a pretty small group, we might be able to just do an open conversation in the chat and, speaking off with our mics. And then we have a little bit of a wrap up and a journaling activity. What sort of the ethos behind this event is to hold space, because for the past few days, we've heard a lot from academics and civil society and government, but we know, especially as young people who are working in this space, that there's often not as much opportunity to learn from each other, and to have that kind of peer-to-peer relationship building that we know is so important in a sort of space like sustainability and the SDGs. So sort of on that note, I would love for everyone to share in the chat a couple of things just to help each other, to help us get to know each other. So your name, your preferred pronouns, where you're calling in from, wherever you're located right now, and what brings you to this conference. So if you're affiliated with a group or if you're from a certain school, let us know where you're from. I'm going to drop this in the chat. I'm going to drop this in the chat now, just so we have so you can remember. And while you're sort of doing that, we're going to start promoting everyone to a panelist. It might take a minute, but you'll see an invitation to become a panelist. And if you would like, you can accept, and then that way you'll be able to turn on your mic and camera so we can all see each other. Yeah, so Emma, you can start doing that now. And in the meantime, if you'd like to share in the chat, as I put there, your name, your pronouns, where you're calling in from, and what brings you to the conference. So I'll put mine here as well. And Amanda and Emma, if you'd like to do that as well to get us started. Yeah, just tell us a little bit about, where you're situated and what sort of brings you here today. It's nice to see some folks coming on to our panelist. If you feel comfortable, you can feel free to turn your camera. No need to feel uncomfortable. I hope this is like a cozy space where you can just sort of chat. It is a smaller group, which is nice. So hopefully I'll get to hear from all of you if you're comfortable. It seems like everybody is coming from very different backgrounds, but I love to hear. I love to see the variety of lived experiences and perspectives, everything from storytelling to science literacy to education. Very cool. Geography, mechanical engineering. Nice. I always like to ask this question because I know, at least where I come from, I'm from the University of Waterloo. I always find that there's a little bit of a bubble in the faculty environment. So it's nice to see that folks are coming in from a sort of wide variety of places and that there are lots of ways to call folks into the sustainability conversation. This is sort of a related question, but I would love for folks to share what got you into sustainability and what was your calling into this space. Okay, great. Okay, see, one person is in. Let Emma or Amanda know if you're having some trouble joining. But yeah, let me know. These can be a specific issue. I see somebody has mentioned labor justice. It's a great issue. It could be maybe your cultural background or your sort of story. Yes, but sort of what sort of brought you here and what is your interest in and around sustainability? Okay, amazing. Reconnecting to Mi'kmaq teachings and culture. Very nice. Nice. Okay, starting off in business and international development led to a lot of learning about ways to make these two fields more sustainable. Nice. Definitely relate as an environment and business student. That's definitely top of mind for me as well. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I can open the chat on my other screen, so that's nice. Okay, so yes, Nabila is mentioning how they spent time with indigenous communities in Latin America. Yes, definitely. Stewards of the natural world. And Shelley is mentioning that they've had an interest in social and environmental justice for decades. Great. Yeah. It's really nice to hear everyone's stories and see how everyone has come from many different places, but we're all sort of in the same place now, which is nice. Yeah, talking about wanting to drive a change. Got interested through climate change and biodiversity and want to bring skills to bring about equity where I can. This is great. Love to see everyone's sort of passion for justice and as in addition to sustainability as well. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the next question. So now that we've sort of established what our calling in was from, I would like to know what makes you anxious or apprehensive about the future of our planet and climate. I know a lot of you mentioned that you got into sustainability sort of out of necessity. You saw there was an issue, you were moved by something you saw in the world, and now you're pushing for sustainability in your own way. But, I think we're all mostly young people here, and I know there's a lot of eco-anxiety and a lot of eco-grief happening in this world. So I'd love to sort of hear everyone's perspectives on like what worries you, what keeps you up at night, and hopefully we can find some community and solidarity with each other because we're all, living the same. We all sort of facing the same issues and are worried about probably similar things. Um, yeah, feel free to share a phrase, a couple words. Yeah, definitely the IPCC report recently was very, very worrying. Yeah, destabilization of systems for sure. So Jay in the chat is mentioning how they're anxious that meaningful change will not happen in their lifetime. Definitely, definitely feel that. Especially, I think, in my experience, I guess, as a young person working in this space, is seeing the disconnect between me. I'm 21 years old this year, and seeing decision makers who are in their 50s and 60s and are, their sort of actions won't have impact within their lifetime, but it definitely will in mine. So definitely hear ya. I definitely agree. Yeah. Shelley's mentioning that they're anxious that actions that need to be taken are not being taken, and that we're moving closer to our own disaster and destroying other living things. Yes, for sure.
I can be brave and unmute. um, I think that like on a personal note too, something that I've been starting to run into also I'm 22, so starting to look at life planning, and something that is something I'm thinking about more and more is even like planning with my good friends to buy land and thinking about where, like, I mentioned that I live in what is called Vancouver, and so accounting for what the land here will look like in 50 years time. And even having children is something that started to come into conversation in my social circle. And I don't know if it's bled into anyone else's personal life, but yeah, Amy, I'd love to hear from you.
Hi, hello everyone. I guess I'll be brave as well and put my mic on. I don't know if anyone saw in the chat, I was like, I'm having a snack, so I'm not really going to talk while I'm eating. I don't think anyone wants to hear that. Yeah, I just remember like, and I'm going to age myself here, but like 10 years ago, and getting out of high school and being like, yeah, I'm gonna like go to university and have kids afterwards and all that. No, like I don't want to do that anymore. It's completely changed my um I guess my goals and my thought process because I mean there's a lot of factors that go into it, but one of them is like the earth is literally dying. So yeah.
Thanks everyone for sharing and turning on their mics. You've inspired me to do the same. Amy, I'm also eating a snack, so very much feel you. I put down the one on just like the ongoing lack of acknowledgement, like cooperation. I see one like governments are not taking the issue seriously. And I think maybe like anxiety is the next step, or I like went through it really quickly, but I think where I am now is just really sad. Like it's so heavy, and I think I'm at like almost like this weird mourning stage where just to see like the mass devastation that is occurring and will occur and juxtapose that with how power is dealing and talking about it, like it just makes me really sad is not even the right word, just like sad about where we are as humanity.
Yeah, totally feel both of you. Totally get that sort of profound sense of loss and grief. And to sort of bring it back to the Mentimeter, I think this is definitely resonating. A lot of these themes about sort of not feeling like enough is being done. And I definitely, citing an ongoing lack of cooperation, capitalism, sort of government inaction. But yeah, I'm glad to see someone is hopeful here that businesses are starting to change their models. Yeah. Just just venting. We're just ranting. And you know what? We're here for it. We're here for it. Because I just don't think there are enough spaces to just say like, I'm scared. I'm just very anxious on a very profound level. Yeah, so you love a good rant at every 17th. Those are just all students and we all are living the same life and seeing the same things. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I just want everyone to know your feelings are valid. And all of this anger and sadness and confusion and, just general disbelief at what's happening is all real and all very, very valid. Yeah, but I don't want us to sit in this for so long. So sort of to pivot a little bit, feel free to keep ranting in the chat. We're all here for it. I am going to stop sharing my screen and share the second half of these questions. Okay. So, okay. Second Mentimeter, because I only have a free account. I can only do 2 questions per presentation. Emma, please be amazing and drop this link in the chat again. But yeah, so a little bit to pivot, now that we've sort of talked about why we got to sustainability, what worries us about the sustainability of our planet, I want to sort of point these questions to you. And these next 2 questions are sort of about your work. So I'd love to hear, what your thoughts on what you're doing or what you see in your community. I know a lot of us said in the chat that we are involved with certain groups or, certain causes. So I'd love to hear. And even just for us as like a youth organization that works in the SDGs, this is very interesting to us to know about like what barriers do you face in your work, whether it be institutional, as in there isn't really support from institutions, whether it be organizations or government or schools. Maybe it's behavioral barriers. People just don't care. People don't know what to do. People are very apathetic. Or maybe it's just purely financial. You just don't have the money or the capacity or the time to be able to do the work or the sort of extent of work that you want to do. Let us know. And maybe I have to refresh my Mentimeter. I don't know. Let me know in the chat if you are trying to put something in there and it's not showing up because it just might be on my end. Or maybe I can try on my another tab. Maybe I'll do that. But yeah, let us know what barriers you're facing. Okay, perfect. Yeah, only so many hours in a day. Very true. Definitely just a capacity thing. And definitely get that feeling of, if you're not I feel like there's this sort of crushing expectation for people who work in advocacy or sustainability to just work yourself to the bone, because if you feel like you're not doing enough, then the work will never get done. There's just always so much work to do. And yeah, definitely underfunded and understaffed. Yeah, definitely takes a huge toll on well-being. Definitely relate to the feeling exhausted or burnt out for sure. And yeah, Catherine is sharing in the chat there. Did they see a lot of denial of climate change among people their age? Denial or apathy? Yeah. The feeling that we can't do anything, so we might as well burn the world. Yeah, definitely see that. I think in sort of response to hearing about all this craziness and the sort of the scale of the problem we face, that it can be very paralyzing. I definitely see that. Then I've experienced this maybe on a micro level of like, I don't even know where to get started. Like it feels like I'm chipping away at a mountain with like a spoon or something. Like, so I can definitely see, yeah, agreement in the chat here. That denial or apathy is a very common response to sort of learning about the climate emergency. Yeah, and in the Mentimeter, I see similar themes here. The enormity of the task, and feeling like it's an uphill battle trying to educate people. Yeah, definitely.
I think that I'll be brave and unmute again. I think that's something that I really felt at the beginning, like I'm from small town Ontario and went to university and was all excited to be in school and that sort of thing, and then slowly got disillusioned, as some others might be able to relate to. But I think something that like was really the first like barrier or like disillusionment was learning about just like the pervasiveness of greenwashing in like every sense of what it means, and like having like learning about big corporations like starting to have like reports that like focus on environmental related issues or SDG related issues in general. But then realizing that all you have to do is dig a little bit to find out that like there is lack of action. So I think like something that I've struggled with coming to terms with is like not only the lack of action from like big corporations and that sort of thing, but pretending and like sometimes like spending a lot of money and working really hard to like pretend that they are being more responsible than they are. And that's like a memory of a first big moment of like really feeling that barrier.
Yeah, thanks so much, Emma, for sharing. Yeah, and I see in the chat that Anjali mentions that she sometimes feels an urge to escape and disengage, and it seems like a lot of folks agree. Not to be on the spot, Anjali, but I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about what that urge is, maybe, and if you have an idea of like where it comes from or how to combat it. Love to hear from you.
Okay, brave turning mic on. Like what I think I mean is some days, like instead, it's just like so much to think about, and I'm like in my head, and I'm just like really sad about the state of the world, and like just want to go home and like watch like 4 hours of reality TV about literally nothing, and like not think about anything. And like honestly, I don't think it's all bad. Like I think like doing just things for fun is good. But I think that like this cycle of like really heavy pushing to try to make change and then like escape, like it's just like a tough cycle to be in. Like I would love to smooth that a little bit and just like feel good, energized, and nourished like throughout this work.
Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing. Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say thanks for sharing. And Amy, if you'd like to share what you were thinking as well.
Yeah, I agree with what Anjali was saying. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. So I am a consultant. I run my own business, and I do like workshops on reconciliation, diversity, and inclusion. And okay, what happens in the Zoom room stays in the Zoom room, right? Like Vegas rules. So, so I have had to fire clients because they just want to bring you in for like a 1-hour workshop, and they think that they've checked off the boxes and that they've done everything that they can and they're all good. And it's so exhausting. It's like, okay, but then we live in a capitalist society, so sometimes I have to bite my tongue and take those clients because pardon my language, I have shit to pay for. So it's just like, and I definitely feel your pain, because it's like sometimes I just want to lay on my couch all evening after work and just watch TV or YouTube videos. It can be really exhausting. Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah, Amy, and such a good point also about like doing sustainability work within a capitalist system, because it sometimes it sometimes can be like very difficult and like directly have an impact on your like financial stability as someone who's has shit to pay, like you said. And I think that like that for me has been a difficult struggle when I've been presented with opportunities that I know or go against like my beliefs, like working for a corporation in their sustainability office that I know isn't actually promoting sustainability. And like that internal struggle, I've also found very difficult in this sort of work.
Yeah, I don't want to take up too much space, but I just wanted to add to that, like, as an Indigenous person as well, it's like what I'm trying to teach people is to decolonize and to unpack that colonial mentality and to try and help make the world a more equitable and safe space. And I'm like, I get it. And I understand it's like our traditional teachings for like thousands of years. And what I'm trying to do is like, and what a lot of people in Indigenous communities are trying to get people to do is go back to that, like go back to our traditional ways that respected and honored everybody and it was like an equitable society. And it's just like constantly coming up against like those barricades of people just don't understand. And that can be like trying to decolonize is just so exhausting.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, everyone. And I don't mean to be the practitioner of all solutions because I definitely don't know everything, but this sort of conversation reminds me of the importance of rest, and this idea that I see a lot in these kind of circles, that rest is radical and rest is resistance, which is really cool. And I think that's a very like rad anti-capitalist thing to say because in a world that sort of pushes us constantly to produce, to be productive, to create value in a capitalist monetary sense, sometimes it's like a statement and it's defiance to be like, no, I'm going to rest. I know the work is important and I can't give up and I can't sort of let this overcome me, but I understand that I need to take time to rest and recharge and disconnect in order to continue this work. And of course, this balance looks different for everyone, but yeah, as Nagma says in the chat there, you can't help others if you aren't taking care of yourself first. Definitely. Yeah, and this means different things for everyone, but I hope everyone takes a little bit of time to think about how they can incorporate that into their work because I can feel the exhaustion just through the chat and everything. Yeah, I don't know, Christian. I know you mentioned in the Q&A you'd like to speak. If you're able to, please do.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I always have a lot of things to say, but it's really touching to hear everyone's, testimonials, and I'm really happy that these types of spaces exist, even like in a covered conference that's, funded by ESDC and so forth. I mean, so important. And I mean, I feel you all a lot. I mean, that's really where I was at from participating in the Summit of the Americas in 2001 to like climate justice throughout the 2010s. So I'm a bit older than you folks. So if I'm feeling anxious or tired these days, it's more because I'm not getting sleep because I have an infant at the house. But I'm still really as preoccupied, with environmental and social justice issues as I was. I guess just, I guess maybe I just have a little bit more patience, and I maybe would just tell you all. I mean, I wouldn't say, I don't want to be condescending, actually. I want to say, I want you all to like push back as much as you can in the places and the spaces you are, but like in an equanimous way that you're not attached to the outcome in the small term, whilst in the long term, you're all supporting each other and are parts of these networks that are so rich and so very nourishing and supportive, so that in the long term, we're just building more and more solidarity and reaching across different stretches of people, such that we can really go forward on these SDGs. And in another workshop, I said that the SDGs are just kind of a convenient framework to provide funding, and it's a nice excuse for that, and it helps people who are in the institutions and the organizations kind of network and get together and measure this stuff and get good data. but at the end of the day, that's not the rallying cry that's going to get, the mass population behind us on these things. And so that's where I think it's important also to, and I think what you folks are doing with Reimagine 17, I didn't know about you until recently. It's really, really cool. And so keep up the great work. And I don't know what I can do, like personally for you all, but maybe professionally. I mean, I work at Environment Canada. We're doing a science literacy promotion program. So if you want to reach out to Environment Canada scientists for your events, that's something you could just give me a shout. And otherwise, yeah, certainly, like, I don't know, direct action really does get the goods. And I mean, it's funny, you might hear that government guy telling you that, but if it's done, strategically, and the right, legal organizations are involved, you have to sort of hit at all angles. And so there's I think there's a bit of a willingness with COVID and so forth. People are a little bit more ready for emergencies, but there's still a lot of work to do. So I'll leave it at that. Good. Thanks for opening up the space, and don't lose too much sleep. Get out there and exercise or party or whatever you need with people, and like you said, that rest is radical, and don't forget to do that. Enjoy. Thanks.
Thank you, Christian, for your wisdom. Yes, party can be essential. Definitely agree. And yeah, I think really great reminder that this is the long game, as Catherine writes in the chat there. And reach out to your networks to lean on folks, and we're definitely not in this alone, as evidenced by the people in this room right now. But yeah, I want to end on a little bit more of a hopeful note. So our last question here is, what do you hope to see change or be implemented in your own community? Or what do you hope to achieve through your work? And I know we all come from very interesting, diverse perspectives and backgrounds. So I'd love to hear, what are you working towards? Is there a particular project or an issue you're really passionate about? Or in general, if you're not sort of directly in the sustainability space, like, what do you hope to see in the world, in your community, on your school? You can sort of choose the scope you want to engage with, but yeah, sort of as our wrap up final question, as we round up this session, maybe to leave us on a hopeful note and to remember, what we're working towards. Yeah, definitely. Someone writes strength in community, or strength in community. Definitely something to appreciate during COVID. I know it's been tough to connect virtually, but I think we've all been doing the best we can to try and connect with others in a digital platform. Great, yeah. You can keep them coming. And I think while we continue to share in the chat and in Mentimeter, I'll also drop my contact email, and maybe Emma, you can drop yours. Maybe you can drop both of ours, in case, like, shameless plug, you want to learn more about Reimagine 17 or to connect with us directly. If you're interested in like youth work in the SDGs or sustainability and justice advocacy on post-secondary campuses, we'd love to chat with you. But yeah, maybe Emma, you can drop that and like our website as well. But yeah, okay, so some more input from the chat. So Catherine writes that they're in Saskatchewan and hopes that we can make changes away from fossil fuel dependence and cheerleading. Yes. Ooh, definitely a hot button topic for West Coast folks there. And I think it's going to be very interesting, especially in sort of like window of time before 2030. So I hope that the scales will kind of tip in that favor for sure. And on Mentimeter, folks are writing that they're hoping to see more epiphany moments from older white folks who hold positions of power. Yes, I think we as sort of younger people can see we have a sort of moral clarity that I think is not as constrained by the status quo or what is deemed to be feasible economically, politically, etc. So yeah, I definitely hope that, older folks can kind of catch up to where we already are. Somebody writes, welcoming the other. So migrant justice and refugee justice. Yes, these are key issues and will definitely be more and more important as we see sort of more effects of climate change. More just and equitable futures in my corner of the planet, creating an alternate path for those who come after me. I really love that. That's a great sort of reminder of intergenerational justice as well. So not just thinking about us right now, but thinking about future generations. Reconciliation and resurgence. Yes, very great. Yeah, so keep those coming. We are almost at the end of our session now. I don't know if anyone wants to hop in really quickly and give a very quick rundown of, what they wrote on Mentimeter or in the chat. Just since we have a few minutes left together, would love to hear from someone. Feel free to raise your hand. I'll just signal boost what Shelley wrote in the chat there, that they hope to move the Nanaimo community to a net zero carbon municipality. Very nice. Yes, and I think municipality is a very interesting arena to work in terms of sustainability, and I think more attention needs to be paid to cities and regions as well. Yeah, thanks, Catherine, for being here. Yeah, develop a regenerative way of thinking, maybe in an alternative to extractivist thinking or destructive thinking. Okay, amazing. I know we only have 2 minutes left, and I want to make sure I respect everyone's time, and so you can enjoy the rest of your day. So echoing what Emma wrote in the chat there, thank you all so much for being here. I know sort of Zoom webinar and this sort of virtual space is not the ideal way of connecting with each other, but I hope if you were following along and even if you weren't participating or just kind of listening in, I hope you got something out of this conversation. I hope at the very least you feel a little bit less alone in your fears or your worries, and you feel a little bit inspired by all the amazing folks here who are, pushing for amazing things in their own communities. And yeah, so shameless plugs, definitely encouraged, throw your contact in the chat as well if you'd like. And yeah, feel free to reach out to us at Reimagine 17 if you'd like to do so. And yes, thank you all so much for being brave, for being vulnerable. I know this is kind of a weird place to be sharing your deepest fears about the future of our planet, but thank you all so much. I really appreciate it, and it has been so lovely to hear from all of you.